Nice to be back, Max.
Alistair, the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman this past week said that we should get rid of the word unconventional when related to monetary policy measures like quantitative easing. That is, it is now conventional policy. Your thoughts?
Anything to print money, basically. Last refuge of the scoundrel is printing money, I think. So, anything that supports the opportunity to just try and print their way out of trouble, that's what he's doing. Next we'll hear him saying MMT is a good idea.
Is it not correct that when quantitative easing was introduced, people said, hey, you're monetizing debt, and debt monetization is always a recipe for hyperinflation and currency collapse. Every single country that's tried it has failed under a hyperinflationary currency collapse. And the response from central bankers was, no, that's not the case because this will only be temporary. And we, as Ben Bernanke said, we can reverse quantitative easing in 15 minutes if we wanted to. Now, here we are looking at quantitative easing 4. There is no reversal. This is massive Ponzi scheme economics. And is it not simply a case of debt monetization, Alistair?
It is simply that, yes. The idea that you can rescue the economy by debasing or debauching the currency is absolute lunacy, because what you're doing is you're transferring wealth from people without their consent to the state. And, this doesn't actually improve the economic outlook. If anything, it makes the outlook deteriorate. There can be a temporary benefit, and that's, of course, what they're playing on. But there's nothing temporary about the policy now. It is becoming permanent. It's quite simple. They are printing money.
Temporary benefits are almost by definition a Ponzi scheme. Everyone loves it until it suddenly collapses. And let me ask you this. When you have $11 trillion in debt around the world now at negative interest rates, and that number growing, it would appear that not only are rates never, ever going up again in any meaningful way, and not only are rates going to be universally at 0%, but we will also have not 11 trillion in negative interest rates, but probably 80 or 90 or 100 trillion in negative interest rates, Alistair.
It's going that way, isn't it? Because they just print. And part of it is to suppress the cost of borrowing. And this is actually not so much to improve prospects for the private sector. It's more to make government borrowing affordable. That, I think, is the primary reason for doing QE. It's printing money basically so that governments can finance their deficits. And in the coming years, the costs of welfare states will be escalating. The amount of taxes that government are collecting in real terms will be declining. So how do you bridge the gap? You print money. That's where we are.
Maybe you can settle an argument I've been having with Danny Blanchflower, former, I guess he was one of the top guys at the Bank of England. He's an economist. I made the point a number of years ago that this type of quantitative easing doesn't fight deflation. In fact, it causes deflation. And by that, we mean the increase in zombie debt. Am I not now the winner of this debate, Alistair?
Quite clearly you are.
Oh, thank you. That was a brilliant answer. And let's move on. Okay. So on that note, it looks like the Fed cuts, yes, still. The market's at all-time highs, of course, but doesn't. Let me ask you this. Donald Trump loves the fact that the markets are doing great and stock markets are going higher. If that were true, Alistair, isn't that when you would see rates go higher? Higher rates indicate a booming economy, not rates going down. True or false, Alistair?
Well, basically, the valuation on the stock market is, if you like, based on ultra-low interest rates and the prospect, perhaps, as you've just mentioned, of even negative interest rates. And, on that basis, your valuation for anything can be sky high. That's all it is. At some stage, there will be a realization in the market that the contraction of business in the real economy is actually begun to be so serious that all these valuations are complete pie in the sky. And then there will be a massive return to earth.